years, Melissa Mittereder worked in Hollywood in the costume department for films and styled stars like Jennifer Lopez. But all along, God was working behind the scenes, rewriting her story. After surviving a severe trauma accident and breast cancer, Melissa is now on a mission to give hope to others through health and wellness. And we're so glad, Melissa, that you're joining us to share your story with us today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
We're so happy to have you with us. So, Melissa, tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you even got into the business.
So I'm 41 years old from Pittsburgh, but I was living in New York City for 13 years. And I got into the business in Pittsburgh. This was kind of a cool thing. It was after my accident, we'll touch on. I went to a party and was invited to work at a casting office, and then worked at different jobs in Hollywood. Flash forward to getting the opportunity to dress some of the biggest stars. I dressed Anne Hathaway and Jennifer Lopez, and my life on the outside looked pretty amazing, but there were some interesting things happening on the inside.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things that were happening inside, but let's go back from it because you went through a very severe traumatic accident. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, so at 23, I just graduated college, and I was in Florida, walking back from the beach, and I was hit by a car. My body was hit by a car that was going over 50 miles an hour. My body flew over 100 feet. I was life flighted, and all of my doctors said, we have no explanation beyond a miracle of how you're alive. Nobody knows. I was in a wheelchair for a long time and 3 years of surgeries, but God is so good.
He truly is so good that working a miracle out and then opened a door for you to work in Hollywood, styling like J-Lo, Anne Hathaway, all these stars. So tell us about your life in that industry and just being in Hollywood and some of the things that you experienced.
So I think it wasn't really until I stepped out of it that I realized how much darkness there really was there. And I knew on my spirit that it felt heavy at times, but I was paid really well, and it was something I'd always wanted to do. I mean, most people think, so glamorous, right? Mm-hmm. And living in New York City for all of those years, the veil was definitely over my eyes. And I've always believed in God. So I've always believed in him, but there were times in my life, I'm just being honest, he took the back seat, right? He was not the priority. And I started mixing into some things with New Age that are just so seemingly acceptable in our society now. I really had no idea. And I feel like things like tarot cards or yoga, burning sage, even angel cards, they do things that make you feel like, oh, well, this is okay. I'm not getting into witchcraft. And once I left New York City, that was total God thing too. He said, it's time to go, sister. And I came back to Pittsburgh. The veil was dropped from my eyes and I was able to see. And once you can see, you can't unsee, right?
You know, let me ask you about that. In that arena of New York City and that high-powered entertainment area, yes, are people looking for something spiritually? Is that why they're going to some of those types of things? Or is it just accepted and people just do it?
I think there's a lot of emptiness, but I don't know that that's just in Hollywood. Yeah. I feel like, especially today, so many people are just searching, right? They're searching for answers. There's so many unknowns, so they're grasping all around them, going to gurus, going to psychics, reading self-help books. Mm-hmm. They're searching. And what I realized, again, when the veil was dropped, the only book I needed was the Bible. That blew my mind. I took a look at my bookshelf. It is clear. I had so many of those books that, again, just seemed, there's no big deal here. And Bible, that's all you need. It's got all the answers.
Just even like we're talking, I think there's a lot of people that are, you know, all different age ranges that is their mentality where it's like, it's okay to dibble and dabble. It's okay to go in this place. But from your experience and just even, you know, as you were getting closer to God, what did he really reveal to you about his word and how that is so dark and so evil on the other side?
I think a big part of what I got from him, I don't even know that it's all the New Age part, was trusting him, right? Like going through these challenges in life, a friend of mine told me, he said, Melissa, you're being double-minded, even as I was coming back to God. Because I would say, well, I believe in him, but I don't know how this is gonna get done. I don't know how I'm gonna pull myself out of this situation, get out of this hole. And I had to, God was like, can you just get still? If you get still, be still and know that I'm God, and listen. I'll reveal it all to you. I've got you. I'll take care of this. And I feel like a lot of women were like this. We're independent, we're driven, we want to do all these things, that we try to do it all on our own. Doing that, you end up burned out, stressed out, empty. And when I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a single woman too. So I was like, I have to do everything. God's like, I got you. I'm always here with you. Can you just give it over to me? I'll help you. It literally is that simple. But for so many years, I was struggling, looking for love in all the wrong places, dabbling into all these things, trying to fill that part of it's your body, mind, and spirit, right? All of it, that literally only God could fill. Simple.
So what was it that God used to bring you back, to get your attention and bring you back to that place where you knew you needed him?
A couple things. Pandemic. When March 2020 happened, I went from making 6 figures a year to nothing. The year before that, I had breast cancer. And he always is so patient, right? He's like the perfect gentleman waiting for us. Are you listening? Are you listening? And finally, like that 2020 was like, Melissa, you gotta go. I was on a call for what I do now in the health and wellness world, and I got a phone call that a TV show I was supposed to go and work on was not happening, and God said, time to go. But I literally told a friend a couple years before, she said, oh, you should move back to Pittsburgh, it'd be so great. And I mean, my life was amazing on the outside, right? Working for J-Lo, traveling the world. Why would I move back to Pittsburgh? My hometown, for what? I said, hell's gonna freeze over. I looked her right in the face. I said, hell's gonna freeze over before I ever move back here. But it was the biggest blessing in my life, truly. He said, it's time to leave New York. I literally left my entire life there. At almost 40 years old, moved back in with family, starting over. It wasn't easy. And God never says it's gonna be easy, that just because we follow him, it's gonna be a smooth road, right? I have seriously been in the wilderness, like really in the wilderness, but the peace and knowing he is there with me and trusting that has made all the difference.